We have all met children who seem to be struggling to apply their skills and coordinate what they do in purposeful ways. As an educational psychologist, you are likely to be able to see that these executive functioning difficulties are a discrete issue. But how do you go about addressing them? Executive functioning is a slippery concept, so it's not surprising that educational psychologists might be a little hazy on how to include it in our casework and in our wider support for staff in education. The Psych-Ed Executive Functions Connecting into Practice course will enable you to think more clearly about executive functioning and where it sits alongside other skills that children develop. I'm Rebecca Ashton. I've been an educational psychologist in local authority posts, in an NHS neuropsychology team, and in private practice for many years. I specialise in working with children who have brain injuries, who very often have executive functioning difficulties. So I've learned a lot about how to integrate executive functioning into my assessments, consultations with schools and families, and interventions. This knowledge has been incredibly useful to me in my general school EP work, and now I'm really excited to be able to share it with you to use in your own settings. This course will guide you through the layers of understanding the concept, defining what we mean by executive functions at different levels of specificity, and understanding how these functions develop in typical children leads us on to how we can assess those skills in individual children. You won't need to rush out and buy lots of expensive equipment. I'll explain how you can gather data about executive functioning in a range of ways and bring it together in a formulation that makes sense. The course will go on to get you thinking about how you talk and listen with others in order to come to a shared understanding about executive functions. And of course, we'll talk about interventions that might feed into your action planning. Some of the interventions I'll discuss might surprise you, and I hope that by the end of the course, you'll have a range of ideas that you're inspired to try out. Executive Functions Connecting into Practice is an e-learning format. Each chapter is divided into short animated videos, like this one, and can be taken at your own pace. With access for a year, you can use this course as a reference guide to come back to for individual cases or when projects arise. On the course, you'll also find a host of references, links and resources that can be utilised within your practice, reflective activities to facilitate your learning, and a dedicated space for the EP community to ask questions and share thoughts between ourselves. So, executive functions are incredibly important. These are the skills which will enable young people to build a life for themselves, as they underpin not just academic attainments, but positive health, career and relationship outcomes. However, executive functions can be rather a blind spot for psychologists and educators alike. It is not obviously described in the Special Educational Needs and Disabilities Code of Practice, and it's not covered in most of our frequently used assessment tools. But executive functioning difficulties are a very common issue, especially in groups that are vulnerable in other ways, such as children looked after, children with attachment difficulties, and children with brain injuries. Children with executive functioning difficulties deserve to have their needs met just as clearly as anyone else. This course will give you the knowledge, skills and confidence to address executive functioning issues in individual casework and, I hope, provoke thought about how we can work more systemically to ensure that executive function development is nurtured.